We've got a lot of Guardians, we've got a lot of Browns, but guys, I think we'd be crazy if we didn't start with Terry Francona, who left the Guardians last year. While the public narrative was he's going to retire, I never believed it for a second.
He made clear he wasn't necessarily, he didn't rule out a return.
He didn't, but from the Guardian standpoint, it was like, thank you for a great career, you deserve your retirement. And I was skeptical at the time. I felt that he may surface as a general manager if he was done with the daily grind of the dugout work. But I never really sailed from the idea that this guy was going to manage again. And I want your guys' thoughts on what this means for the Reds and your thoughts in general. I read a lot of and heard from a lot of folks yesterday that said Tito's a traitor. What do you guys say to that? That made me a little angry.
We kind of mentioned it the other day. Like, people in Cleveland, and there's a critique on the fan base. The fan base is like this. They always do loyalty tests. Mm-hmm. Like, we are the loyalty test kings of the world. If you don't say you want to be here, if you don't wear the same thing we wear, if you don't act like we act, we are going to find something and we will get you. Like, they looked at Tito like, okay, we'll let you out of your deal. Look, hey, go ahead, ride off into the sunset, maybe be a consultant. But they look at it as wrongfully. They look at it as not only didn't retire, you stayed in the state and went to Cincinnati. Like,
does that matter to you?
No, I don't care nothing about that, because
it's not like they're in our division.
The Guardians got a manager. They in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They doing what they need to do. And sometimes it run its course. Like, I don't think that the Guardians would be doing what they're doing today if Tito was the coach, no matter how.
Oh, really?
No, because I think there's certain things that Stephen Vogt did that Tito wouldn't do.
That's a fact.
Miles Straw, he's going to play veterans. It's going to be hard for rookies to crack this lineup. He's going to manage specific ways because he likes veterans.
Vogt gave guys a chance.
He gave people a chance, and I think that new energy got the Guardians to where they are today.
I was actually listening to Jim Bowden on the drive-in this morning on Sirius Baseball, and he said he was referring to Thad Levine being out in Minnesota, and he said, Theo Epstein used to say, sometimes you're just at a place too long. Right. And you just need to move on. And that's what happened here. Like, if you're upset at Tito, that's insane to me.
I don't understand it either.
Number one, he doesn't know Cleveland anything. Number two, he went to the National League. Number three, I was shocked at the timing. I'm not surprised that he returned to manage. I was really surprised it was only after a year. That did surprise me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, but I mean, he's a lifer. Like, this is all he knows.
Yeah.
And when he was having all the health problems, I know he had family members telling him, like, retire, like, come be with your grandkids, like, enough. And this is his life. This is what he loves. And I'm guessing over the course of the last year, he really missed walking around the clubhouse in his underwear, reading the paper, because that's what he does. Like, he walks around the clubhouse in his underwear and his sandals, and he reads whatever he's reading, whatever. I don't even know if they print newspapers anymore. And he gets to the ballpark early and stays late, and that's his life. So I have no animosity or ill will toward Tito for wanting to return to baseball and manage.
You think it's a good move for
I
the
think
Reds?
It's a great move for the Reds.
I don't know how anybody can.
It's a home run. Like, the Reds are a really good young
Look at
team.
their roster.
They're pitching. They got tremendous young pitching. They have one of the great young superstars in the game in Ellie De La Cruz. I think it ran its course here, and that's all there is to it. Why are you upset? You have a team that has the second best record in the American League, is going to the playoffs.
Right.
Manager's going to be up for Manager of the Year. Very well may win it. I could get it if Stephen Vogt flopped as a manager and the Guardians underachieved this year. But how could you be upset at how it worked out? You've got a great young manager.
You guys think him coming back so quickly had something to do with him having a chance to sit at home and watch this team and their success, and it made him be like, I want to get back to it.
My theory is he never wanted to leave. Tito is a baseball lifer.
Yeah.
And when you make that decision to walk away, you're leaving the only thing you've ever known in your entire life. Remember, he grew up in a big league clubhouse, being the son of a major leaguer. He went to Arizona State, won the Golden Spike Award. He had an unbelievable career. Likely would have had an unbelievable major league career if it wasn't for all the injuries. He was forced into managing at a far too early age, and he really settled into it, and he liked it. My theory on this is exactly what it was last year when it was going down. If you remember when the Guardians decided that they were going to be sellers at the trade deadline, what happened the very next day? They got no hit in Houston. And it was such an alarming time that, by my understanding, the front office got on an airplane and flew to Houston to basically say, guys, look, this is why we did what we did. Now, we have the benefit of the results for this conversation.
It was the right move.
You can argue it was the right move. As a fan who loves October baseball and wants a chance, look what the Tigers did when they were sellers at the deadline this year. Detroit essentially made the same decision that Cleveland made last year. But their clubhouse, instead of turning tail and rolling over and getting no hit the next day, their clubhouse said, oh, let's show them. We're going to show them that we are winners and we can compete. What were they, double-digit games out at the deadline?
Yeah.
Detroit was done and buried. The Guardians were 2 games out when they traded Aaron Savali.
Yep.
Now, we can look at it now and say it was the right decision. I think time will tell. My perspective on it at the time was, you can't give up on a guy like Jose Ramirez. You can't give up on a guy like Tito. Tito clearly did not want to give up.
So is that part of the reason you think he left?
I'm supposing here. I haven't talked to Tito. I haven't heard this from Tito. I've heard rumblings that there's something there, but I haven't heard specifically from him, so I don't know. But what I would say, could you guys imagine if you're the manager and your bosses, who are giving you minimum payroll to begin with, start giving away pieces and parts for the future? When you're Tito, you're not in the future, you're now.
Yep.
And so I can completely understand if Terry Francona in that moment said, they're quitting on me, I'm quitting on them. And he walked. And Tito, being class as he is, he's not going to come out and say that. He'll never say that. But I was hearing rumblings from people that cover the game, that know the game very, very well, and know Terry, that he wasn't good with this. And if that's the case, and he walked away from that, I have no ill will towards Terry Francona. Zero, zip, nada. Here's what I will say. The Ohio Cup just got interesting.
Yeah.
I never cared anything at all about the Ohio Cup. Why would I care about that? The Battle of Ohio. Okay, great. What I care about is rivalries, individual rivalries. Now the Ohio Cup is sold out all 4. Yeah, I don't know. How many games do they play? They play 4 every year? 2,
I think
2
so.
there, 2 here?
I think so.
I can't imagine that there's going to be very many empty seats for either of those games because Cincinnati's going to be good. And the other thing that was almost a possibility 30 years ago, this moment. 30 years ago, right now, Bud Selig had announced about a week prior that there would be no 1994 World Series. World War I couldn't cancel the World Series. World War II couldn't cancel the World Series. At the time, the Reds and the Indians were playoff teams. And there was a lot of talk. I worked in Columbus at the time. Kirk Herbstreit was a Reds fan. I was an Indians fan. We started talking in July. Oh, my God. We could get an I-71 World Series. Yeah. When they canceled the season, Herbie and I decided, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to play out a World Series on video games, the Reds and the Guardians. And we played a 7-game series to see who would have won.
MLB 94.
And we had a blast doing it. And what we found was that the fans, the viewers, were so interested in any kind of baseball because it was September, October. They had nothing to root for or talk about, and their teams were relevant. The fans got on board and were like, who's going to win this series? They were actually interested in it. A video game played out by 2 knuckleheads. And to me, the thought, just imagine, no one ever thought that Tito and Theo would meet in a World Series to break the longest curses when together they broke the longest curse previously. You can't script that. Can anybody script a Reds Guardians World Series?
It's entirely possible.
In 25 or in 26?
With the rosters and the trajectory of both of these franchises, it's absolutely possible.
Which roster would you take? If you were sitting here and you said, okay, I got the front office, You know, you look at what kind of control you have.
That's a good question.
And look at the young roster. Which one of these rosters on, would you just say, okay, you got a job to take?
I don't think it's a slam dunk, is it, Jay?
No, it's not. I like De La Cruz. He's the best
Is
player.
he the best player on both teams?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, Jose, but young talent.
Right.
He is a young Jose to me.
Yeah.
He does everything that Jose does. He runs, he hits for power, he hustles, he plays hard. He's their best player and he's their hardest player.
And I don't know the Reds organization, but are they going to give, what kind of power is Tito going to have? Is he going to have Boston power or Cleveland power?
Jay, I don't know the ownership in Cincinnati well enough, but I will say this. I think the move to go out and get Tito, I heard from Reds fans beginning last night, energized like you can't imagine.
Yeah. Oh,
and
sure.
it's not that David Bell was just kind of, he was there. They underachieved this year. They felt like they should make the playoffs this year. Their record in one-run games was ridiculous. They just, and I know if, but had they won half of the one-run games that they lost, they're in the playoffs. So they're not far away. I can't wait to see what Tito does with this group. I will watch the Reds with great interest next year because this guy demands it.
To answer your question, I would take the Guardians roster.
Slightly, right?
Yeah, I would take the Guardians. It's not. I would take the Guardians.
Yeah, and I would too, but it's not a slam dunk. The Reds have a very favorable young roster right now.
Well, that means Tito did the right thing then.
Oh, listen.
And the Reds.
Kudos to him.
I mean, the Reds gave Joey Votto a monster contract a few years ago.
Yeah.
So now they're not going to be Dodgers and Yankees in terms of spending, but I think that they will spend more. They will spend more than they do here.
Well, I think
and
when they see how the fan base is energized by getting Tito, they know what he is and what he means.
Yeah.
I think the owner is going to be motivated to say, wow, let's ride this wave. When free agency begins, let's pick and choose. Who do we want? Let's bring in a couple more veterans maybe to help a young team get guided. It reminds me a lot of the 94 Indians when they had this huge young core of talent, and then they went out and they brought in Dennis Martinez and Oral Hershiser and Eddie Murray and Tony Pena.
Dave Winfield.
And Dave Winfield. And the next thing you know, you had that perfect blend of youth and experience, and they were a fixture in the playoffs and played in 2 out of 3 World Series from 95 to 97.
My only thought when I saw this was Tito, just don't touch Carl Willis. He's in Cleveland.
Listen, it crossed my mind
down
too.
To Cincinnati.
They're very close. We're going to find out, and it's not just Carl Willis. I think there's a fear that
Sandy out of here too.
I don't know. I think Sandy is more. I've got a piece running on Sandy Alomar before Game 3 in the ALDS about his career. 27 of his 36. He's 58. 36 years he's lived his life in a major league uniform.
It's crazy.
27 of those years he's been in an Indians or Guardians uniform. 11 as a player, 16 as a coach. He's been sort of tapped as, he's got a distinction. He's the only man that was in uniform for Cleveland for their last 3 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just him.
Yeah.
What a fixture.
And and he loves it here. I don't think he would leave, but Carl Willis, the thought of Carl Willis leaving would be as big or bigger than the thought of the Browns losing their offensive line coach last year.
And
I think it would be bigger.
A lot of Tito's staff left with him, but Carl's the one. Like DeMarlo Hale left. If DeMarlo wants to join him in Cincinnati, so be it. He's no longer
I pay
here.
Carl whatever he wants to stay.
Carl will be a really interesting case because I think he's really enjoyed this season. I talked to him a few weeks ago, and I think he's enjoyed it even more than maybe he thought he would.
Now he gets to pick. Like, is it person or is it place?
Yeah. I don't know what his contract situation is. I don't know if I don't think they have to let him out if he's under contract, if it's a lateral move.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about those coaching situations,
Yeah.
their contracts. Do they get multiple years? Are they year to year? I think a guy like Carl, if
He
wanted
might
multiple
be.
years,
He
would
might be
get
year
it.
to year, and the Guardians do it right all the time by their guys,
Right.
and they may just, even if he is under, I don't know his contract situation, they may just let him out if he really wanted to do it.
It'd be a big mistake.